Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC. First, brief disclaimer. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box for you. Should you like to do a deep dive, you definitely should be able to do so. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity. And when we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. So if you have kids that watch the channel that are 16 and younger, parental supervision very much advised, alright? Alright, where we left off, a little bit more on funding on transportation and housing. Now, out here in my state, we tend to do a lot more help with housing than we do with transportation. Now, individual providers of services for us disabled folks, such as ARC, for example, not sure about Nova. I do know Easter Seals helps quite a bit with transportation, but it's not necessarily done through the usual Medicaid pipeline when it comes to housing. They do care, and then there is a little bit of money that goes into Section 8 from Medicaid. They work very tightly together, but a lot of our housing assistance comes through HUD. And there's a bunch of things you have to qualify for, including Medicaid, to be able to get onto that waiver. And the wait list is insane. I mean, my aunt that I helped get into the Frisco building downtown for disabled folks was built with reasonable accommodations, lower counters, things of that nature. And she had to wait about 5 years until she got up to the wait list and was able to get that housing assistance, rent assistance, things of that nature. But let me go ahead and continue here. So Nancy says, it seems like several topics like social and behavioral science are being folded into question 6. This seems inappropriate, as it is a separate topic from lifespan issues and might degrade the important and expansive topics already included in question 6. In other words, they want the things, the adulthood, the transition age stuff, and adult services. Things, they want that to be separate. And it should be, because when it isn't, not only is it confusing, the funding becomes confusing and way more complex than it needs to be. So, yeah, it does need to be its own topic. Definitely agree with that. Catherine here says, review data collection practices for determining autism and developing testing protocols not just at early childhood but all stages of life. Add quantitative biofeedback on sensory processing challenges and rigor towards qualitative, removing where possible analyst bias that views differences as deficits. Now that's not true across the states, because every 2 years, like clockwork, I get reassessed, and a part of that, it's auditory, it's sensory issues, as well as the social and behavioral side of it, but not everyone does. And I do agree that we need to make a more concerted effort to get data, in particular, on transition age from from high school to adulthood and adult neurodivergence, because let's just say the silence on that end is extremely deafening. The research in regards to data in those areas what we could learn just in regards to longevity effects in regards to different types of treatment programs. There's a lot of things we need to be doing in collecting data throughout the lifespan of the neurodivergent that is not being done to this day, and this has been something I've been complaining about since 2006. I remember bringing things up like that specifically when I did my first event, speaking with my and then every single other legislator in Jefferson City that day. And that was one of the topics I brought up. So, the concept of the fact that we get older, we remain autistic, right? So having that information, extremely important. Number 2, workforce support towards managing all neurotypes. Setting standards for work accommodations that are reasonable for employers to implement. Update compliance standards towards accessibility for invisible disabilities. Across the damn board, please, because there are even some physical disabilities that are kind of considered invisible or barely visible, like my folks that worked with me at T-Tech back in the day who may have canes and things of that nature, but so people won't sit there and think much about the fact that you are in writhing agony while you're taking phone call after phone call. No, we definitely need to do some review on that. Big time. Hard agree. 3, identify key danger zones where autistics are having their human rights violated and seek ways to remove these dangers. Like the JRC, for example. We can't just have schools like the JRC get away with literal atrocities. Literally on the level of some third world countries and their torture tactics. They get their inspiration from Mingala, I'm convinced. But yes, ways to be able to identify and properly prosecute the individuals who engage in such horrific acts like they do at the JRC, what needs to be done to the individuals who perpetrate them so they can't just scuttle off to somewhere else and do it to another kid. Yeah. Alright. A. Police. Conflict resolution based on neurotypes to avoid tragedies. Advocates for violators to help them navigate the system. Update training to remain neurotype biased. Not looking in the eye equals lying. I have trained our own state troopers out here in Missouri years and years ago, which I can tell because after a good solid 10 years after I held those classes is when things started going crazy and my fellow neurodivergent people of color were starting to get shot. But you get where I'm going. It needs to be redone. Would you do it? Would you do it for free? Yes, provide me transportation and I will do it. No questions asked. But yeah, that's what they brought up, transportation. Legal standards for determining competency that doesn't put autistics at a disadvantage, such as custody hearings, fighting parental controls, emancipation. Don't use our diagnosis as an excuse to not investigate. Okay? We're not delusional. We're actually to an extreme rational individuals. Okay? And C, medical. Different neurotypes may respond differently to medications, local anesthesia, and creating protections to avoid trauma. Very well said, Catherine. I definitely agree. And we're going to go ahead and close out on this one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, if you would all be so kind, please don't forget to hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. And make sure that you are, again, still set up to receive notifications. We are continuing with Down the Rabbit Hole in the Snake Oil Salesman series. We do not want you all missing anything. I do appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everyone.